Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Titans Tube. This is going to be our preview video for the Week 9 matchup against the Chicago Bears. And I don't know about you guys, but I think I speak for Jake as well, in that I'm ready to move on from that Cincinnati game as quickly as humanly possible. I just want to get that out of my mind. So very excited that the Titans have a game coming up here. Jake, thank you for joining me once again. How you doing, sir?
Of course, I'm doing great. Had a good week. Hopefully your week, you're feeling a little bit better. I know you're a little stuffy yet, but we're getting over the hump. We are socially distanced, as we've mentioned time and time again, states apart. So that's good.
Yes.
But heading into this weekend, Justin, I would be lying if I said I wasn't pretty nervous to face the Chicago Bears team. And I feel like maybe not a lot of fans are on the same wavelength, but looking at this, this secondary we could be trotting out this week might not be looking good, even if Desmond King ends up, playing sufficient amount of snaps. We'll see. We'll hop into this preview. We'll talk about it a little more as we go, but I'm not feeling great.
Yeah, I mean, it lost a lot of faith after losing to a 1-5-1 Bengals team, and now you have a 5-3 Bears team coming off an overtime loss to the Saints. So yeah, there's a lot to look for here. Kind of a weird matchup, and this is a Bears team, one of these NFC teams we only see once every 4 years. So if you can remember the last time we played them, Jake, I do want to throw it back real quick, was one of the great games of Mariota's career, and Rashard Matthews too. A lot of people remember that game from that deep throw Mariota had to a diving, sprawled out in the end zone Rashard Matthews, the good Rashard Matthews that suddenly became a fan favorite.
The non-quitter Rashard Matthews, yes.
The non-Twitter Rashard Matthews, the one who ended up and quitting the team whenever we needed him most. We needed a receiver, and he was like, peace, I'm gone. But that was a fantastic catch on that day. Also, most fans, if you'll remember that, but you'll also remember the Bears came storming back with like a third-string quarterback. I think it was Matt Barkley. It was Matt Barkley.
Correct.
I remember.
Nice work going into the memory vault.
It's fleeting, but it's still there somewhere. Just tearing apart that secondary, and we can relate to that team because our secondary is getting torn apart now. We're cutting corners now, and J-Rob cut a corner after that game. He cut Parrish Cox. The only thing that saved us was that one of their receivers dropped a 4th and goal pass in the end zone. Cox blew the coverage, and so he was cut like the next day. So J-Rob hasn't changed in 4 years. At least we know that much. So that's nice.
We have made several strides as a franchise in the past 4 years, but we're kind of in the same position. Secondary getting torched by, rookie QBs and the like, and everybody in between, and cutting corners, as the phrase goes, but cutting cornerbacks and corners. Jonathan Joseph this week.
Get that trending on Twitter, Titans cutting corners. That's kind of been our theme, maybe for at least 4 years ago and now. Right.
But yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we got here as the Bears come to town. I guess, Jake, if you want to start it off, we'll start off our first category, Titans passing offense against the Bears passing defense.
Yeah. So the Titans maybe took a touch of a step back as far as, passing yards per game goes last week against the Bengals. I think they were more so middle of the pack. They still are middle of the pack, but kind of fell down a couple spots to 18th in passing offense. The Titans are throwing for 251 yards a game, and Chicago is 12th in pass defense, giving up 228 yards a game. You have Kyle Fuller, kind of a household name in the NFL at one of the corners, and then Jaylon Johnson on the other side. Both of their starting safeties, and Eddie Jackson and Tayshaun Gibson, are questionable. If they can't go, they're going to be going to backups like Deion Bush and Sherrick McManus stepping into that role. But Justin, the secondary is not what I'm so much worried about worried about them affecting the passing game of the Titans so much as the Chicago Bears pass rush here. Obviously, you have Khalil Mack is in the top 5 in sacks with 6.5 this year. I can't even imagine a Titans player having 6.5 sacks so far this year. See, I'm just coughing and scoffing at the thought of it.
That's almost as much as our whole team, Jake. Don't we only have like 7 sacks, I think, as a team?
If that. Bad. Jeez and Pete. Feels like 0. But anyways, they also have another player, Akeem Hicks, up on the D line, who has 3.5 this year, which seems like a gazillion to a Titans fan. So I'm worried about the pass rush against Tannehill here. He's done a
Yeah.
decent job. We have seen it in some instances this year where he holds the ball a little bit too long, kind of doesn't feel that pressure and that clock, ticking. So I don't know. I feel like this could be an opportunity for Tannehill to maybe get strip sacked or kind of make an errant throw or pop one up and
Yeah.
getting hit. I'm looking for Tannehill to not have any of those inexcusable interceptions, especially in the red zone, like we saw last week in Cincinnati. It's just with the state this defense is in right now, we can't leave points on the field. And so Ryan Tannehill's got to play a good, clean game. This red zone offense has to stay efficient, which, they have been able to do a lot in Ryan Tannehill's tenure here. But Tannehill's got to have to play a clean game in this one. And that offensive line for the Titans is going to have to stand up against a ferocious Bears front.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be tough in this passing offense category because of that front, and also too, going back to their secondary. I do want to mention Eddie Jackson is a pretty ball-in player, a ball hawk, and and when he gets his hands on the ball, you have to tackle him. Like if Tannehill has an inexcusable interception to him, you have to get him on the ground. He has scored so many touchdowns, it seems like, since he got drafted, like just a few years ago. So he's got a nose for the ball. He's got a nose for the end zone. They have a pretty good secondary, but I mean, we love A.J. Brown. We love Corey Davis. No Adam Humphries. We love Jonnu Smith, even though he hasn't been there production-wise. I still feel like we can move the ball through the air if the protection holds up. So, I'm with you. We just got to worry about this pass rush for the most part.
Absolutely. I think at the end of it, I kind of want to call it a push just because the Tannehill mistakes have been few and far between, whereas, his stereotype in Miami was he's going to make those backbreaking interceptions. He's going to, have those instances where he does turn the ball over. So I'll give it a push in this category, kind of a let's wait and see. If anything, I would give the Bears just a slight advantage just because they have a pretty dominant pass rush, obviously headlined by Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks. So we'll see how it goes. I want to have hope. Justin, you're going to have to be the more optimistic side in this episode, I feel like, just because I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring that pep talk I usually have in some of these previews. I'm a little worried about this matchup, so we're going to need some optimism from you. So, and I think you have a chance. Yes, go for it.
I got your optimism right here, Jake, because this next category, we got the king himself, Derrick Henry. Titans as a team, number 4 in the NFL in rushing yards per game, but the king is number 1. The king himself is the leading individual rusher in the NFL. So as a team, though, we're getting 155 yards per game on the ground. Probably see more D'Onta Foreman. I almost always mess up his name, but then
it's spelled Dante. Donta.
I think it's pronounced D'Onta, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know. He's a Titan now, so we should do him the respect of learning to pronounce his name. Yes. And Jeremy Nichols, who I think have deserved more carries, and that's impossible to say. Is that don't give King Henry the ball? Let's bring in some of these other guys. But it's about keeping him fresh when the fourth quarter hits, and we're still in position to run Henry down their throats. He can do it on as fresh legs as possible. So I'm looking for them to also be active in the run game. But this Bears defense, surprisingly, they're literally in the middle of the pack at 16th in the NFL in rush yards per game at 120. But they got some stout dudes on the front seven. A lot of them are pass rush specialists, such as Khalil Mack. But Roquan Smith, who's in the top 5 in tackles this year, he's been a good, solid young linebacker for him for the past few years. I think he was drafted. I don't know. He was drafted not too long ago, but he's having a good year so far. And Danny Trevathan spent a lot of time in Denver. I think he's kind of bounced around the league a little bit, or he might have just gone to the Bears, but he's had a lot of success at the linebacker position. So they got a good trio of linebackers right there. And Akeem Hicks, like you mentioned, he's a great player for them on that defensive line. Definitely looking for him to be active in stopping the run game as well as the pass rushing for Tannehill. Bringing it back to last week, the Bengals don't have the best front seven, but the offensive line was consistently getting push against them. So can they have that same success against a better run defense in Chicago? maybe not as easy because they have had some success this year. They've only given up one game where they've allowed a 100-yard rusher, which was Ronald Jones from Tampa Bay. They even held Alvin Kamara in check on the ground when they played the Saints. So um, it's going to be a test. It'll be a tougher test for this rush offense, but I mean, we're one of the best in the leagues at running the football. And so by the numbers, you'd think the Titans do have the advantage here with Chicago at 16th and stopping the run. So I don't know, Jake, do you have any reason why we should maybe even give it a push, or maybe we're not seeing something from Chicago's defense? Because it looks pretty good still for this running offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to take them. I like what even with Taylor Lewan out for the year, I've liked what I've seen as far as, running to that left side with Roger Saffold and now Ty Sambrailo. I like what he's been able to do, and they've still been getting that push for Derrick Henry. And they were gashing last week, and, they had over 200 yards total offense running, or 200 yards running offense last week, and they squandered that one away. Are we going to have another situation where Derrick Henry's putting up, great numbers? He had over 100 and a touchdown last week, plenty of, a great yards per carry average. We're going to need to see Derrick Henry rip a big one in this game. I think he's going to have one of those signature runs to, keep the juices kind of flowing, I think, for this offense, because I think it has the potential to get maybe stagnant. Because this Bears defense, they might have pedestrian numbers, but they're a solid group, and they're a big reason why they're 5-2 on the year. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I still am leaning towards the King, as us Titans fans are inept to do.
Yes.
But yeah, I'll give us the advantage here. Bias or no bias, I'll give us.
There's that optimism we're looking for, Jake. But let's bring it back down to the super pessimistic side, because I'm glad you're the one that gets to talk about this. That's Titans pass defense against the Bears pass offense. What are we looking at here?
Oh boy. All right. We are going up against Nick Foles, which, obviously, other than the Super Bowl run in Philadelphia, people are not very high on Nick Foles as a quarterback, or being, consistently that guy kind of QB. Mm-hmm. The Titans are 27th in pass defense. I think that's frankly generous of the stat keepers. The Titans are giving up 268 yards a game through the air, whereas Chicago's passing is only 22nd in the league at 225 yards a game. So they're not putting up big numbers. But you have Nick Foles at the helm, Allen Robinson on the outside, Darnell Mooney, and a questionable Anthony Miller at wide receiver kind of rounds out that stable. And then kind of an aging but still serviceable Jimmy Graham at the tight end spot. I've heard from Bears fans. One of my cousins is a Bears fan. He texted me about this game coming up this week, and he said, I can't even watch this offense anymore. It's pulling my hair out. It's frustrating. I said,
we can't watch this defense.
We can't watch this defense anymore.
Sorry, I think I might have just stolen what you're about to say, your punchline. Dude, my bad. I couldn't wait to say it though.
All good. But I have it in our notes. Is the Titans secondary more painful to watch than the Bears offense? I haven't watched a ton of Bears games this year, but I know where that kind of frustration stems from. And something's got to give. Okay, look at the moves this week. Jonathan Joseph is cut. Okay, you don't have him anymore. Adoree Jackson's trending like he's not going to play in this game. He's probably going to be activated this weekend, Justin, but that doesn't mean he's going to be active on game day. They can bring him off of IR without having him play. And then you have Christian Fulton on IR still for 2 games. Desmond King's going to be playing in the slot. Ty Smith is questionable going into this game, Justin. That leaves you either injury-hampered Ty Smith starting at the second corner, opposite side from Malcolm Butler, or Breon Borders, practice squad guy. So something's got to give here. Something's got to give. It's not sure what it's going to be.
It's going to be painful just to watch football being played when those sides of the ball are on the field. Like it's weakness against weakness. Who's gonna step up and make the plays that need to be made? It could get ugly. For the Titans, I'm thinking that cornerback situation is terrible right now.
But you would think, just God, please, Adoree Jackson, get healthy, because then your starting corners are looking pretty good with former All-Pro Desmond King, Malcolm Butler, be it bounce back performances every, kind of wish-washy. But then you have Adoree Jackson, and that looks pretty good on paper, Justin.
Yeah,
But
those two
it's
players
just not
suddenly
going to get
change.
there.
Yeah, suddenly change our outlook on what this pass defense can do. If those two players can just get on the field for us, man, they would be a big help. Scheme related or not, even if it's still a terrible scheme, they can still cover better than these guys that we've been trotting out there. And so, yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
going to
I
give
would
the
call
Bears
this a
passing offense the edge, and I
okay.
can't do it.
Do it. Yeah,
I can't do it. And so
it's
I'll
okay.
be texting my cousin throughout the game and seeing if the Bears offense is still as painful to watch as it has been in
I
prior
have a
weeks.
feeling he's going to be like, "Wow, we look really good now. We must have turned things around this week." Nope, you just played the Titans. That's all that happened.
Oh man, oh man.
All right, so let's move on. This could be a little more of an optimistic feel here, and it's our run defense against us Bears rushing offense. You talk about Nick Foles not really being there at quarterback, and he's not getting help on the ground at all. And I think that's what helped him during the run in the Super Bowl with the Eagles. They had great balance. I think they had their coaches were firing on all cylinders as well. Because he was slinging it too. That run was so odd to look back on and think about now. But anyway, back to the present time. Chicago not giving Nick Foles any help on the ground. I'm kind of surprised to see this stat, Jake. They're 31st in the NFL in rush yards per game at 85. Titans defense, not pretty wishy-washy. They're 22nd against the run at 128 yards per game. But I think they're getting better. We went up against Giovanni Bernard last week, and I couldn't even tell you what his stat line was because it was all about Joe Burrow passing the ball on us. I can't remember even our run defense, if they were good or not good.
The defense last week was just all around bad. I thought the
Yeah.
Titans' run defense had a rocky start to the season. You remember, Dalvin Cook, James Robinson running all over us. Melvin Gordon had a pretty good game week 1. But I thought they've been able to rebound. They held David Johnson in check. Oh, wow, David Johnson. But still, they held him in check. Giovanni Bernard, I don't think, went over 100 last week, thank God. So, they've kind of bounced back at least. It hasn't gotten worse, much like our secondary.
Yeah.
They've shown signs of improvement. But, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and a big question for this week is going to be, is Jadeveon Clowney going to play? Like, he's not the guy that we brought in so far production-wise, but you watch him, and, man, he does give the effort. He's facing double teams. I'm seeing him just trying to push through double teams and getting some push still. He's getting the pressures. He hasn't hit home on the sacks. He has made some plays in the run game, though. So if he can't go, we're looking at a run defense that definitely needs to be there for us when we know our pass defense is probably going to give up a lot of plays. So that would be a big hit for the run defense if he can't go. Also, Simmons is questionable, I believe.
I think he's good to go.
There's no way he's not playing this game. Yeah. We've got to have Simmons there. If he didn't have it on there, or if he wasn't going to be playing, I would say let's just move on to next week. This is not a good game. But David Montgomery, though, he's going to be spearheading their rushing attack. He has 442 yards on the ground this year. Not bad. Only has found the end zone one time, though. I mean, yeah, Bears just having trouble putting up points. And a big loss for them is their starting center, Cody Whitehair, is going to be missing this game. Caught a case of the COVIDs. So, that's a big hit for an offensive line and a running game that is already lackluster in the first place. So this, again, is kind of weakness against weakness. And we'll see what happens if the Titans are able to get any push against this broken and battered offensive line. They couldn't do it last week against the Bengals.
It's like a broken record, Justin. We heard it all last week, and I will never utter the phrase "get right" game ever again. Well, at least this season for this Titans team. Good grief,
man. Oh, and no Vic Beasley. That's automatically got to bump us up a few spots in rush defense. So.
I honestly didn't write it in the preview, and I that's how forgettable Vic Beasley has been for this team thus far. Just didn't show up to start training camp, and he frankly didn't really show up at all. Frank,
he didn't. Yeah, that was the most forgettable signing I think of all time, except we're like $9 million poorer. Which thanks Vic for that.
Vic Beasley's agent.
Enjoy the vacation.
Laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah. So in terms of competitive advantage here, by the numbers, I almost want to give it to the Titans rush defense, but I don't want to give our defense any credit at all until they prove me otherwise, until they show it on tape. So, uh,
Vrabel's in there showing Titans tube, on the whiteboard.
these guys don't believe in this. How could you guys let that happen? So I could call this a push, I guess.
Yeah, I am also going to call it maybe a push. I would give the slight advantage to the Titans defense just based on numbers, and also, just hearsay through Bears fans. It's just not their offense is very sputtery and frustrating. So
it's a weird matchup.
We'll see. It's going to be a strange one.
In all of these matchups here, it's literally weakness against weakness or strength against strength. So I really don't know what we're going to see in this game. It's kind of a coin flip either way. And if you have a terrible special teams, the coin flip games usually go in the opposite direction. Jake, almost forgot to mention these special teams.
Oh God.
We have a missing punter, a missing long snapper who was cut. And then there's always the kicking issue. Literally all the three components of a field goal kicking unit are not there.
Yep. So in one play last week against Cincinnati, it was, I believe, the last extra point of the game. Beau Brinkley snaps a bad ball to Kern. Don't know what happens on the hold. His hand somehow gets messed up, or his wrist, I believe, is the injury listed. Rolls out, just gets clobbered. Kern hurts his wrist. He's out for a couple of weeks. So now the Titans are out an all-pro, Pro Bowl punter. And so Beau Brinkley has not been snapping the ball particularly great this year. So Beau Brinkley, who's, I want to say almost 10 years he's been with the team. He's been with the team a long time.
I think it was 2012 was his first year with us. And he was great. We never had an issue. And then he got COVID, went on COVID IR, and then he came back and was just snapping it like he'd never snapped a ball before in his life. It was very strange how quickly he was so solid for almost a decade and then just fell off immediately after COVID.
Must be those COVID side effects keep rolling down,
I don't think even Dr. What's his name? Dr. Fauci? That's not a symptom. That's not a symptom he listed. And it is. Your long snapping abilities go down the drain once you contract COVID. So we missed that.
So Beau Brinkley gets the cut in John Robinson's, fire sale. And, he's sweeping this locker room trying to send a message that, producer get out, frankly. So Beau Brinkley cut from this team. And obviously Stephen Gostkowski, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten the boot, especially this week when it was, pink slips for everybody. So the punting situation, going back to that, Justin, I read this today. Punters are going to be tried out tomorrow. We're filming Friday night as we usually do these previews. Punters are being tried out on Saturday, 24 hours before the game, roughly. And, quote, the team will pick one to go with, per Mike Vrabel. So we're just going to have somebody coming off the street, kicking footballs for us. Somebody coming off the street, snapping footballs for us. He was on Miami's practice squad, so he's not off the street. The long snapper, that is. But
that makes me feel way better, yeah.
But this special teams is getting to a point of no return, Justin. We've given up, decent returns throughout the year. There's another big one in Cincinnati on a kickoff last week, and we're going up against Cordell Patterson, who's debatably one of the better returners in the league.
I think he's probably been the best kick returner this decade, honestly. I don't know. It was like 2013 or 14 when he came in, but he has like 5 kickoff returns that he's taken to the house. So, and that's a lot.
Yeah, in the age of the touchback almost every time. Yeah, he's been a very elite kick returner throughout his years. And we have a Cairo Santos revenge game. So as Titans fans, we know we're going to come into this. Gostkowski is going to push one, and Cairo Santos is going to go 4 for 4. We just know that's going to happen. Let's just get it out of the way now.
Maybe it's the Titan Stadium. Nissan Stadium is Cairo Santos' weakness, so he'll continue missing kicks in the stadium like he did when he played.
That's the optimism I need, Justin, because I'm going off the rails on these special teams. We'll just go ahead and give the advantage to the Bears. Their punter is Pat O'Donnell. Shout out to their punter. He's going to be better than whoever comes into the facility tomorrow morning and wins the, whoever punt, pass, and kick competition to sign on to the Titans team.
What
So
took so
get
long?
G's and P's.
What took so long for us to decide to get a punter? And were we holding out hope for Kern to be ready, and then he wasn't? We were like, oh no, backup plan.
You got a long
I,
week of COVID protocols. I'm sure that's going to be,
yeah,
obviously well, Desmond King can't even get into the facility until Saturday, and he was traded Monday. Um, but yeah,
that's true.
it's going to be a mess. Bears special team's going to get it here. Hopefully, this team can just bring it together until Kern can come back. So also, Kern is the holder of the field goals, Justin. So now you have somebody holding the place kicks who's never done it before. They were talking about maybe Logan Woodside gets in there, maybe even Ryan
Oh, okay.
Tannehill, who did it in college. But oh my goodness, it is an absolute mess. So Bears get the advantage here.
Dude,
You
if
want to
it's
go to
Wood,
predictions and try and bring some optimism to this game, or,
yeah,
or some kind of keys to the game? Let's talk about the Titans
sure.
doing something positive.
Let's do that. Let's talk about it. So last week I brought up the point how the offense almost has to play a perfect game. We can't give up any dumb mistakes or have any bad turnovers like the Tannehill end zone interception. Even being forced into a punt is a bad thing because you still have this feeling that our defense can't get a single stop. Um, and I'm kind of thinking it would be okay if we had or I'm kind of saying the offense may not have to be perfect because, again, this Bears offense does not scare you as much as the Bengals offense, which is crazy to say. But hey, got to give Bengals offense that respect passing the ball.
For sure.
They got
No
to be
doubt.
top five. Like, isn't Burrow top five in yards per game? Like they can move the ball through the air on anybody. It wasn't just a Titans problem. Um, so I do trust the defense to get a few more stops than we were able to than they were against the Bengals. So the offense doesn't have to be perfect, I don't think, in this game. I think they have to control the clock. They have to be able to sustain drives. No, you can't get 3 and outs. It's probably still going to be hard to put up 30 points against this Bears defense, as good as our offense is. Um, so, I think Henry, it's going to have to be a Derrick Henry game. I trust giving him the ball more than trying to let Tannehill drop back and hope that the pressure holds up. Because kind of going back to, we saw a mistake last week that was uncharacteristic. And I feel like that's what he was kind of doing in Miami. When he's under pressure, he tries to make too much happen, force things down the field. And I think he could start to do that if our pass protection doesn't hold up. So he's got to feel comfortable. We've got to remain a two-dimensional offense. Derrick Henry, Deontay Foreman, McNichols, whoever's out there's got to be able to pace the game. So, I think Derrick Henry, get him 100 yards. That's a simple stat, but I think we can win
No
this game.
longer the simple stat. Just
It's not simple. You're right.
No longer. 15-1.
Yeah,
15-1.
we're gonna go for that 16-1 mark now with Henry. And that's still, I mean, we can't think that's going to discourage us from still trying that formula again. I think we got to go right back to Henry. It's going to be close. I think it'll be lower scoring for both sides. I'm looking at a 20-17, 20-23 game. I'll say 23-20. Titans win. Give Derrick Henry the ball, time of possession, try to, keep this defense off the field. Pass protect Tannehill on third down. How many sacks did he take last week where that pushed us out of field goal range or maybe a possible fourth down attempt?
Yeah.
So they gotta be better on third down passing. So I don't know. That's me. That's what I've taken. What about you, Jake?
I got you. I agree. Tannehill's got to play a clean game in this one. He can't be making those unforced errors, especially in the red zone. We alluded to it earlier. I think Derrick Henry is a key to this game. Keep giving him the rock. It's starting to get into November and December, and we know what Derrick Henry does in the later stretches of the season. I will say, I think the turnover battle in this one is going to be the deciding factor in the game. I mean, the Bears, obviously opportunistic, with the pass rush, can force mistakes, look for Tannehill to maybe get strip sacked once. I hope it doesn't happen, but I just have the feeling that it might. And so we need no mistakes. There we go again. No mistakes on the offensive end. And it's not a way to play football because we keep talking about the offense here and these keys of the game when it's all about this defense coming out and just putting together a cohesive performance. I like what you said last week. Let's force 4 punts, just 4 punts.
So sad.
And maybe we can get it done. Just 4 punts.
Yeah,
That is going to be my key this week, Justin. I'm going to steal that from past you. I love that
take
key.
it.
Let's force 4 punts, win the turnover battle, play a clean game on offense. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be kind of mistake free. And win the penalty battle too. I thought the Titans had a couple of drive killing penalties last week,
Yeah,
which you hate
definitely.
to see. So
Yeah, but if we want to talk about that, we can talk about how the refs kind of maybe botched some of those calls. Boo refs, boo! They weren't on our side last week.
oh
No,
man. Well, hopefully
Bengals. That's
we'll have the home refs advantage here.
fine. The home ref.
Now,
No.
I will say when I'm getting to my prediction in the NFL picks video this week, I had a breach of contract and I took the Chicago Bears in the picks video.
Yes, very
Uh,
disappointed
I
in
will
you.
not do that here in the preview video. That
Uh-oh.
Bears pick is for keeps. This one's more for fanhood and optimism heading into the football weekend.
Do you truly? What does your heart say? Do you truly think the Bears are going to win or the Titans?
You
Which
see,
one's the real?
I have an inkling, and I think Dory Jackson will be a healthy, well, okay, not a healthy scratch, but they will activate him and he will not play this week. I think they're shelving him for the Indianapolis game this coming Thursday because you're playing an interconference opponent. NFC opponent doesn't mean quite as much. I mean, every win in the NFL is a huge win. But if you were to lose a game, you can drop them to these NFC opponents. And you would hate to see the Titans go into the Indianapolis game on a 3-game skid. So it's just kind of
Right.
just a shit cans of a situation anyway. But they might shelve Adoree this week. There might be a little bit of a look ahead to that Indianapolis game because they have Baltimore this weekend, Justin. They're probably, knock on wood, probably going into the Thursday night game at 5-3. So if the Titans drop this one, you're playing for the division lead on Thursday anyway. Now you'd rather that game be 2 gaps instead of 1, but there might be a slight, kind of look ahead past this Bears team to that.
Sure.
All that said, in my heart, I feel like the Titans can squeeze this one out, but I needed to gain ground in the picks video series. So I thought that was a good advantage there with Luke Worsham from A to Z also taking the Titans. He was teeing it up like he was going to pick the Bears. I'm going to get to my optimistic prediction. The Titans win this game 28-20.
Okay.
And that's about all I got.
No field goal attempts. Well, there could be a few, but he's going to miss.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we'll do 24-20. 3 touchdowns with 2 2-point conversions because we're not sending the kicking unit out at all.
Does that math work? No, it'll be 3 touchdowns with 3 2-point conversions.
That's what I said. Okay. I got my maths. I'm good.
The maths are there. The maths are still there. Man, yeah. I hope it happens. Man, coming off 2 losses sucks, man. I want to get back in the win column for a week.
It's been a long 2 weeks. I'll tell you that. It's been the weather seems a little drearier when the Titans are on a 2-game losing streak. I want them to get back in the win column. Don't get me wrong. But until Adoree Jackson comes back and this defense can make a 3rd down stop and force 4 punts in one game, which seems unthinkable, or maybe even sack the quarterback for Christ's sake, Justin, whatever, just do something on defense and I will be back to optimistic.
Yes. Let's bring back optimistic Jake Titans. That's what our goal is here for the week. Would love to see it. Yeah, that'll do it. Those are our predictions, our picks, our breakdowns. Let us know what you guys think. If you're a Bears fan, if we got anything wrong, correct us in the comments.
Yeah, please do.
And good luck to you guys this week as well. They're another team. They're right there, right behind Green Bay for a division. So they're coming into this game. Let's go get this win against a vulnerable Titans team. So it'll be an interesting game. Like I said,
definitely unfamiliar opponent. Yeah, for sure.
And a clash of strengths on paper. Like, what exactly are we going to see? So yeah, we will see. We will see what happens on Sunday, Jake.
But hey, let's defend the home field. The Titans have been good at home over the past couple of years, and they've been good at home against NFC opponents, from what my memory serves. So let's get it done. I'm going to try and end on a positive note here. Let's tighten up. Let's go get a win, and let's take that momentum straight to Nashville again on Thursday and beat Indy as well while we're at it.
Boom. I love it. It'll happen if you believe. If you think it, it will happen.
I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. Follow us on Twitter at TitansTube or I don't even know what our handle is, Jake. It's TitansTube.
Titans_tube_YT, I believe.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Maybe that's why we haven't been getting follows, is because I can't remember what our handle is. Anyway, yeah. Thanks guys for tuning in. Enjoy your football Sunday, and we're all gonna pray for a Titans bounce back win.
Yep.
Boom.
All right, tighten up, y'all. Have a good weekend.
Peace.